So many homeowners are actually not aware of the stepped up basis they receive when either a spouse or a parent has passed away. Now, while a stepped up basis provides significant tax savings, how you hold title will be the key to whether your spouse will actually get the full tax benefit. Now, I recommend sticking around till the end because I will cover the number one homeowner mistake that could dramatically increase your property tax bill and cost your heirs tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes. Hi, I'm Harold Powell. I'm a local Ventura Realtor helping people buy and sell in the Ventura and surrounding communities. And of course, if you want to stay up to date on all things real estate for our area, be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and bell icon to be notified of future content. Now, I should start with the fact that this video is considered educational, since I'm not a tax or legal expert and can't offer either tax or legal advice. So that being said, I recommend seeking the proper legal and tax advice from a professional for your particular situation. So let's answer the first question of really what is a stepped up basis? So the stepped up basis actually refers to the adjustment in the cost basis of an inherited asset to its fair market value on the date of the decedent's death. Now, in the case of community property states like California, you can actually choose to hold title as community property. So when you hold title under community property and one spouse passes away, both halves of the property will receive a full stepped up in basis, not just the deceased spouse's portion. That means if you're a couple that bought their home for $400,000 and it's worth $1 million when one spouse passes away, the surviving spouse's new basis becomes $1 million. So this means the surviving spouse would have no taxable gain on the first $1 million of the gain when the house is sold. Additionally, the spouse also has the $250,000 home exemption as well when they sell. Now, if you hold title as joint tenants, well, then only the deceased spouse half of the property receives a stepped up in basis, and the surviving spouse keeps the original basis. So using our previous example of the $400,000 purchase and the $1 million value at the time of death, in this case, the deceased spouse portion receives a stepped up basis to $500,000, while the remaining spouse would still only have the same $200,000 basis. So in this case, the surviving spouse would have no taxable gain on the first $700,000 of gain. The difference in non-taxable gain between community property and joint tenants in this case is $300,000. Pretty huge. So this reason alone would be why you'd want to hold title under community property in California. The next question is to look at what is the tax consequence when both parents have passed away and the siblings inherit the property. So in this case, it really won't matter if the property was held as joint tenants or community property. Really what matters most in this case is whether the title was held in a trust, which automatically appoints a successor trustee, and if not, then the property has to go through probate process, which will usually tack on another 5% in attorney costs and court fees to complete. The good news is that whether you sell it in a trust or probate sale, the IRS will use the full stepped up in basis. The capital gains tax is paid on the difference between the inherited value at the time of the decedent's death and the final sale price. So if the decision to sell the property is sold within 1 year of the date of death, it's likely you may not have to pay any inherited property taxes because of the stepped up basis. However, if the heirs want to sell the property down the road, then there may be a tax consequence. So let's take a quick look at an example. Let's say the decedents originally purchased the property for $200,000. The inherited property stepped up basis at the time of death is $1 million. Then the heirs end up deciding to sell the property 2 years later for $1.3 million. Well, the heirs in that case would pay capital gains on $300,000 minus the closing costs and the remaining $1 million would not be taxed. Now, I should mention that as a service to our clients, we do provide an estimate of value at the time of death, which most CPAs will accept as the new stepped up basis of value for the property at that time. So let's address the costly mistakes. So this happens when a well-intentioned widowed parent thinks that adding the son or daughter to the grant deed will make it easy for them to take over the property upon their passing. Well, the big issue here is that the heir would only receive half of the stepped up basis, just like in the joint tenant situation. So they could potentially have a very large capital gains tax that could have been avoided. So the other problem it creates when adding a son or daughter to title is that it can trigger a property tax reassessment. So it may likely cause the county tax assessor to reassess 1/2 of your property tax basis, especially if your son or daughter is not living in the property. So this could result in a permanently higher property tax bill going forward. So the solution to this issue in both cases is to create a trust that automatically appoints your son or daughter as the heir. Number one, they will get the full stepped up in basis. And number two, if the property was the principal residence in California and they are going to live in the property, well, then they can transfer the property tax without being reassessed at the new value. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If so, give it a thumbs up. Thanks.